Have you ever had a guy go completely silent on you, only to pop back up weeks or even months later with a casual, "Hey, how have you been?" It's confusing, frustrating, and part of you wants to answer, but another part of you wonders, why now? In today's video, I want to talk about what that silence really means and, more importantly, how you should respond when he finally reaches out. When someone goes silent on you, it's easy to overthink. You replay the last conversation, scroll through the messages, try to figure out what you did wrong, what changed, what triggered the distance. But in reality, silence itself is an answer. It tells you something about where that person was emotionally, how invested they were, or what they were willing to offer at that time. Silence isn't just the absence of words. It's a message. And the more we try to fill that silence with our own assumptions, justifications, or fantasies, the more we lose sight of what's actually happening. When a guy disappears without explanation, it can stir up your insecurities. You might begin to doubt your worth, thinking maybe you said too much, wanted too much, or pushed too hard. But in truth, his silence is rarely about you. It's about his capacity, his timing, his mindset, or maybe even his lack of clarity. People who truly value a connection don't just vanish. They communicate even when it's hard. They show up even when they're scared. Silence is a choice. And when someone chooses not to communicate, that tells you everything you need to know about their emotional availability. So when he reaches out again after a period of silence, it's tempting to treat it like a restart, as if the clock resets and nothing before matters. But if you're going to protect your peace, you need to remember that his silence already gave you insight into his patterns. Don't forget how it made you feel when you didn't hear from him. Don't ignore the way you had to pick yourself up, question your worth, and move forward without closure. That experience wasn't meaningless. It was information, and information is power, if you listen to it. Often, when we're emotionally attached to someone, we want to believe their reappearance is a sign of maturity or realization. That maybe, just maybe, they finally see your value. But that desire to be chosen can cloud your ability to evaluate what's really in front of you. The person reaching out now might still be the same person who left you in confusion, unless they've shown growth, accountability, and a genuine interest in rebuilding trust. It's dangerous to erase what the silence showed you. It's not about being cold or unforgiving. It's about being honest with yourself. If someone didn't care enough to stay connected, explain their absence, or check in during their silence, then their return shouldn't instantly grant them the same emotional space they once had. Reconnection doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it's a test of your boundaries, a reminder that not everyone deserves a second chance at the same level of access. Your peace, your time, your heart, they're not available to people who only remember your worth when it's convenient for them. When he reaches out after silence, pause, reflect. Because while his words might be new, the silence that came before them already told a story. When someone who once pulled away suddenly reaches out again, it's easy to fall into the trap of believing that their return automatically means they've had a change of heart. That maybe the time apart gave them perspective, that they've matured, that they've realized your value, that things are different now. But one of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that a reappearance is the same thing as personal growth. Just because someone shows up again doesn't mean they've evolved. What matters is not that they came back, but how they come back, and what they're bringing with them. It's important to remember that people come back for many reasons: loneliness, boredom, curiosity, guilt, or simply because they know you once made them feel good. The motives for re-entry can be rooted in selfishness rather than sincerity. If someone left without explanation or disappeared during a time you needed consistency, and now they've resurfaced, the first instinct shouldn't be excitement. It should be observation. What are they saying? Are they addressing the past? Are they taking ownership of their silence? Or are they acting like nothing happened? Someone who's truly changed doesn't ignore the fact that they went silent. They acknowledge it. They talk about it. They bring a sense of responsibility and vulnerability into the conversation. They don't deflect, blame, or pretend it didn't hurt you. That's what emotional maturity looks like. On the other hand, someone who hasn't changed will likely dodge accountability. They'll keep things light, vague, or overly casual, hoping you'll welcome them back without asking too many questions. That kind of return isn't about building something new. It's about taking advantage of your hope. What you need to pay attention to isn't just the words, but the patterns. If the person reaching out now is the same person who couldn't offer clarity or presence before, then you're likely dealing with the same level of emotional unavailability. Time doesn't heal immaturity unless effort was made to grow during that time. A person doesn't just magically become more capable of connection without having done the inner work. So unless there's clear evidence of reflection, remorse, and a changed approach, the risk of repeating history is high. Your responsibility in that moment isn't to explain yourself, overextend, or jump back in with open arms. It's to protect your energy, to watch, to listen, and to decide whether this person deserves another investment of your time and emotions. Because someone who ghosted you, left you confused, or emotionally starved you, then returns with no explanation shouldn't automatically be treated like a changed man. He might not be new at all. He might just be hoping you're still the same person who once gave him easy access without boundaries. True change reveals itself in consistency, honesty, and accountability. It's not in the words they say when they reappear. It's in how they show up, how they handle difficult conversations, and how they make you feel in your gut. When someone who once disappeared suddenly reaches out, there's often a knee-jerk reaction to reply immediately. You may feel obligated to be polite, to appear unbothered, or to avoid seeming rude. But what many people forget in that moment is this: you do not owe instant access to someone who chose to go silent. Just because they've decided it's time to speak doesn't mean you're required to open the door the moment they knock. The fact that they're reaching out now doesn't erase the period of time where they left you in the dark. When someone exits without communication, they take control of the emotional narrative. They leave you wondering, doubting, spinning in your thoughts. And that time of silence isn't harmless. It often creates a wound, a space filled with questions and emotional disconnection. When they suddenly reappear, they may act like nothing happened, expecting to resume contact as if that void was never there. But your emotional world doesn't operate on their timeline. You don't have to accommodate someone just because they decided now is convenient for them. People often confuse kindness with accessibility. You can be a kind, compassionate person and still withhold access. Boundaries are not acts of cruelty, they are acts of self-respect. If someone didn't care enough to maintain consistent communication, check in on how you were doing, or offer closure when they disappeared, then their message after weeks or months of silence doesn't deserve automatic attention. That's not being harsh. That's being conscious of your energy, your heart, and your worth. You're not an emotional convenience. You're not a placeholder someone gets to return to when they're bored, lonely, or seeking validation. When someone ghosts or disappears, they're communicating something, whether consciously or not, about their priorities, emotional availability, and ability to handle adult connection. So when they reach out again, that contact should be met with discernment, not desperation. You get to take your time. You get to evaluate. You get to decide whether they've earned the right to re-enter your life in any capacity. It's not about playing games or pretending not to care. It's about recognizing that your peace of mind is valuable. If someone disrupts that peace by exiting without warning, and then expects to casually drop back in, they're testing how much of yourself you're willing to give without reciprocation. Your response in that moment is powerful. It says everything about how you treat yourself. Will you drop everything to accommodate someone who once vanished? Or will you honor the silence they chose and give yourself permission to decide what's truly best for you? Responding immediately can send the message that their absence had no consequence, that they can come and go without any emotional accountability, and that sets a dangerous precedent. The way you respond teaches people how to treat you. It tells them what's okay and what isn't. When you withhold immediate access, you're not punishing them. You're simply protecting your space and making sure they understand that access to you is a privilege, not a guarantee. When someone you cared about goes silent and then decides to come back, one of the most dangerous emotional traps is responding from a place of loneliness. That longing you've been carrying, the unanswered questions, the late night thoughts, the emotional space they once filled, can all come rushing forward the moment their name lights up your screen. It's natural to want to feel connected again, to seek comfort in something familiar, especially if their absence left a hole that no one else quite filled. But allowing your response to be driven by that loneliness can set you up for disappointment, confusion, and emotional regression. Loneliness is powerful. It distorts your perception. It makes you more forgiving than you should be. It tricks you into thinking that any attention is good attention, that any message means they care again. When you miss someone deeply, your brain starts rewriting the story. You remember the good moments more vividly and downplay the parts that hurt. That selective memory softens your boundaries. It makes you want to believe that their return is the answer to everything you've been feeling. But what you have to ask yourself is, are you responding because their message truly deserves a reply, or because you're craving connection? There's a big difference between responding from clarity and reacting from emotional hunger. Clarity is grounded. It considers history. It evaluates intentions. It protects you. Hunger, on the other hand, is reactive. It says, I just want this pain to stop, or maybe this is the moment they finally get it. But if the only reason you're answering is because it feels better than silence, you're giving away your power. You're allowing someone else's temporary decision to dictate your emotional stability. You have to get honest with yourself about what's driving your response. Is it hope? Is it fear? Is it the fantasy that maybe this time will be different? Or is it a calm, grounded sense that they've shown up with genuine accountability and a clear desire to repair what was broken? Without that clarity, it's too easy to mistake attention for affection and a second chance for real change. That's how cycles repeat. That's how you end up back in the same emotional place you thought you'd grown out of. There's nothing wrong with missing someone. That feeling is human. But acting on that emotion without checking in with your logic can lead you right back into a situation that's not aligned with your value. Responding from loneliness gives the other person more power than they've earned. It says, "I need you to feel whole again," when in reality, your wholeness never depended on them to begin with. The most self-loving thing you can do is to pause and ask, "If I wasn't feeling lonely right now, would I still want to reply? Would I still think this person deserves a place in my life again? Would I still see this message as meaningful, or would I recognize it for what it truly is?" When someone who once disappeared suddenly reaches out again, your instinct might be to jump back into the old rhythm you once shared with them. The familiarity can be comforting. The history you have can make it feel like you're simply picking up where things left off. But if you want to protect yourself emotionally, you have to resist the temptation to respond based on what you used to have, and instead focus on what they're bringing to the table now. The past may still carry emotional weight, but it cannot be the compass that guides your decisions. One of the most powerful tools you have when someone re-enters your life is your ability to match energy, not memories. Too often, people let nostalgia speak louder than the present moment. They give more than they receive, hoping to recreate a past connection, while the other person is putting in the bare minimum. When someone comes back, they should be meeting you where you are, not expecting you to lower yourself back into where you were. If their communication is minimal, vague, or surface level, then your response should reflect that energy, not overcompensate for it. Matching energy doesn't mean being cold or distant. It means being in tune with what someone is actually giving you right now. If they're reaching out with real intention, vulnerability, and the desire to reconnect meaningfully, then that's a different level of effort than a casual "Hey, stranger," or a late night "How have you been?" Your response should align with the quality of their message, not the depth of your history. This protects you from falling into the trap of doing all the emotional labor, while they enjoy the comfort of your attention without investing anything real in return. When someone disappears and returns, it's a test of how much they can get from you without having to earn it again. If you immediately open up, respond with warmth, or start reminiscing like nothing happened, you're sending the message that their absence had no consequence. That's how patterns repeat. You teach people how to treat you by how you respond when they try to come back on their terms. Matching their current energy reminds them that you've evolved, that you're not living in the emotional space they left behind, that if they want a second chance, it has to be earned based on today's standards, not yesterday's emotions. This also helps you avoid confusion. Instead of overanalyzing their mixed signals or wondering what they want, you focus on the facts. How are they showing up right now? Are they being intentional? Are they investing? Are they respecting your time and feelings? If the answer is no, then you don't need to do more than they're doing. Matching energy keeps you grounded. It lets you stay connected to your self-worth. It reminds you that history does not entitle someone to access your heart, especially if they're not willing to show up in the present with the respect, clarity, and consistency you deserve. When someone reaches out after a period of silence, it can stir up a lot of feelings: confusion, relief, hope, even a sense of validation. You might find yourself wanting to reply immediately, to re-engage with someone who once left you hanging, simply because you missed them or because a part of you still wants the story to continue. But in that moment, what's most important is not your emotional attachment to them, but your attachment to your own standards. The way you respond should be a reflection of your values, your growth, and your emotional boundaries, not your unresolved feelings. Feelings are fleeting. They're powerful in the moment, but they can shift with time, perspective, or even a single conversation. Standards, on the other hand, are rooted in self-awareness. They are built through experience, reflection, and a deep understanding of what you will and will not accept in a relationship. When someone disappears and then returns, your response is a chance to show that your standards weren't just talk. They're a real filter you use to protect your peace, your time, and your emotional energy. It's easy to confuse vulnerability with availability. Being emotionally open doesn't mean letting someone come back without explanation or accountability. You can still be kind, still be mature, and still have compassion. But that doesn't mean you sacrifice your standards just to keep the peace or keep a connection alive. The moment you ignore your boundaries to make someone else more comfortable, you're telling yourself that their comfort matters more than your well-being. That mindset can slowly erode your self-respect, even if it comes from a place of love or hope. When a person comes back into your life, they should meet the version of you that has learned from the pain of their absence. They should meet someone who doesn't just want connection, but healthy, honest, consistent connection. And that means being able to assess their words and actions not through the lens of nostalgia or desire, but through the clarity of what you know you deserve. Are they showing up with sincerity? Are they offering more than just attention? Are they offering effort, explanation, and respect? A strong emotional response might make you want to immediately engage, explain your side, or pick up the emotional conversation where it left off. But if you respond only based on how you feel in the moment, you risk inviting someone back into your life who has not earned the right to be there. Feelings can lead you to lower the bar, while standards remind you to raise it. Feelings say, "I miss you," while standards say, "I need consistency." Feelings want connection, but standards require integrity, and when you choose to let your standards lead the way, your response becomes a declaration of self-worth, not just a reply to a text. Choosing your standards over your feelings doesn't mean you're hard or closed off. It means you've grown enough to know the difference between what feels good and what's actually good for you. It means you're no longer willing to give emotional real estate to someone just because they decided to show up again after disappearing.